talking about the duality of life. And the crazy thing is that life is filled with a lot of things that are tragic, that are sad, that are painful, that are just awful. And yet, in a really weird way, it has to be like that. And the nature of life's duality means that we have to accept this. And that's one of the major things we have to do in order to achieve peace in our life spiritually. A lot of people think that the purpose of life is to fight evil and to do good. And that's not incorrect. But think about a video game where you have the bad guys and then you have the good guys. Would you play the game if there was only good guys? If there weren't any bad guys, there wasn't any enemy, there was no objective other than just positive things. Why would you play that game? It just would be pointless because there wouldn't really be anything to do. And we've seen this in various games where a game looks fun, it seems pretty cool, but the truth of the matter is there's nothing really to do in it because there's not any combat, there's not any real competition. You're just playing so that you can say you did it. And it can be kind of cool and chill and fun, but it also just feels empty. At some point you just are kind of thinking, well, why? And then you lose interest and you move on. It's like thinking about going to heaven and sitting on a cloud all the time playing a harp. Okay, so if that's what eternal life is all about, just sitting there playing a harp on top of a cloud, then do I really want to go to heaven? Because that sounds like hell. Maybe it's fine to play the harp for the first 20 minutes or so, but after the first several hundred years, I think that would start to be really miserable. So life is filled with a checkerboard of black and white, good and bad, a duality of light and darkness. And it's supposed to be that way. It has to be that way. Just like you have to have the alpha predators and you have to have the small creatures that get hunted. That's how nature works. There's a balance in nature. And no matter how much you want to say that nature's all about being peaceful and calm and serene, and it might well feel that way if you go out there and you sit by some ocean beach or a stream in the forest, then yes, it sounds very peaceful, it seems very peaceful, and it's very harmonious. But despite being very harmonious, that does not mean it's extremely peaceful. So we see the refusal on the part of some people to acknowledge the duality of nature when people act like the animal kingdom is really kind of cute, like it's out of a Disney movie or something, and they don't really want to face the truth, which is that people might be in a way cruel for hunting animals, but animals are absolutely just as cruel because they hunt each other. So if you are pragmatic, even if you're in favor of conservation, you have to acknowledge that there's nothing intrinsically wrong with killing animals if you're pro-animal, because animals kill animals. So nature just is savage. That's just the truth. Albion Online is a great example. And the reason I made this channel originally is I thought it would be cool to take video games and then use them as a little bit of an allegory for life, because art imitates life, right? But Albion Online really is a great example of this, and I find myself coming back to this game often over the years because it's realistic. There's balance. Everything's meaningful. If you make weapons, those weapons are going to be in demand because people are going to lose them. They're going to be destroyed. They're going to be consumed by the game. And then there's going to be a need for more of them. And yet, I also don't like the toxic attitude of the community in Albion Online. I don't like it that players can be so insensitive to each other, so unkind to each other, even if it's just pretending to be unkind. It brings out the worst in people sometimes when you have somebody that's just trying to gather ore, and then you have 5 people come and rob them in a totally unfair fight. That's not something that's cool. That's not fun. At least it's not fun for the person on the receiving end of it. But then there's also something to be said for the fact that in a game where people aren't required to be kind and nice and trustworthy, when you do find people who you can trust, then those connections feel meaningful. Because trust, when it's not a requirement, when it's not by default, then it's significant. It carries weight. And when things can be destroyed, when things are consumed, when there's a logic to the balance of the economy, then there's more of a desire to participate in that economy. Because you know that there's purpose in what you're doing. And yet it's really hard to embrace the duality of life, because it feels like if you are choosing to fight for what's right, your goal has to be to eliminate what's evil, to destroy what's on the other side. But just like nature, the cosmos has to have its balance. There has to be good and bad, darkness and light. And they have to always be, in a sense, at odds with each other. It has to be an ongoing and eternal struggle that doesn't ever have a permanent conclusion. Sometimes that's hard to accept. Maybe the solution is we just shouldn't think too much into it, because sometimes when you try to understand things that are beyond your scope of understanding, you just frustrate yourself and create a feedback loop of sorts. Sometimes we just have to accept that things do make sense, even if they don't make sense to us. And accept that we do have a purpose to strive for what's right, to believe in something with conviction, and also to have respect for the fact that everything happens for a reason. We don't have to do evil. We don't have to expose ourselves to it or endorse it. But we also kind of have to understand that even when things seem terrible, the universe is not broken. And there is a place for all different kinds of people in the world. There's an overarching harmony in the universe. Even when we don't feel like there is, nevertheless there is. And that is peace, because that means that we can let go of things enough to understand that we don't have to achieve something specific in order to be in a good place in our lives. We don't have to win the ultimate battle. All we have to do is live every day and be thankful for the life that we've been given. And that's enough. Till next time, thanks for watching.